Hey, George here, and in today's video, I want to talk to you about why reading books is so important. Um, I'm going to keep this video short and packed with value because I respect your time. So, there are four main points why reading books is so important. Let's start with the first one. So, the first one is that we're able to simulate the future. And what I mean by simulate the future is that you are able to um, you know, learn from someone who has already done a mistake, right? And you're able not to repeat the mistake in the future. And this is highly important because say you were to learn how to invest money, right? And you have, you take, there are two ways you can take. You can either do it all yourself, so you can, invest money, you'll probably lose some money, you'll make a mistake and you'll be like, okay, I'm not going to do this in the future. And that's the first way to learn. The second way to learn is to, read a book about Warren Buffett's investing strategy and, take his advice. And, if you take Warren Buffett's advice on investing, most likely you will make less mistakes and you will have greater success with investing if you take Warren Buffett's advice, if in comparison if you do it yourself. So that's why reading books is so important. It doesn't just work with investing, it works with pretty much any field of your life, whether it be health, whether it be money, whether it be relationships, or your happiness. So all the areas in your life are affected by you being able to learn from other people and take their advice, implement it into your life, and simulate the future. So by simulating the future, I mean making plans of doing specific things and not doing specific things. So that was the first point. The second point is getting a perspective on things. So what I mean by this is, throughout life, we encounter problems, or, better to say rainy days, right? And, sometimes it's a light rainy day, sometimes it's a thunder, and, sometimes it's sunny, like right now. And so when we encounter these rainy days, right, or these thunders, we think that life is over because we think that this is the most horrible thing that happened, and this happens because we do not have the proper perspective on things. So if you read books, right, you will be able to learn about the lives of other people who've encountered much greater tragedies and problems in their life. So right now I'm reading this book about Winston Churchill, and this guy is great. I mean, he went to I think it was like 3 or 5 wars by the age he was 23, so my age. And I'm sitting and whenever I think about, oh my God, like my Amazon account is going to be blocked or whatever, and I'm stressing out about that, I'm like, George, keep this in perspective. So I open a Churchill book, I read about how he almost got killed at war, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, my the fact that my Amazon account might be blocked is probably not the biggest threat I'm facing in my life. So it kind of helps me to calm down and keep things in perspective. So for you as well, if you're encountering something and you read a book where about a person who has a great life and the difficulties, the challenges he experienced in his life, it helps you. It will help you to get a perspective and understand that whatever you're facing in life, first, someone might have already faced that in life, or the second thing is that whatever you're facing is not as nearly hard or complicated or difficult as people have experienced before. So sorry, that's the second point. The third point is, it's quite obvious, learning new things. So uh, expanding your area of understanding and accepting. These are just my bullet points here that I wrote down before the video. So expanding your area of understanding and accepting your ignorance and becoming more humble. Those are the 3 points I wrote. So by learning new things, what I mean is that you come into life and you don't know anything, right? And there are people, there are many people before you who have dedicated their lives to specific things, and they spent tremendous amount of time learning a specific field, going in depth, basically just spend their whole life studying something. And what reading books allows you to do is it allows you to tap into the minds of those people before you who spend their lives dedicated to a specific subject. So this is tremendous. I mean, take someone like Sigmund Freud, who dedicated his whole life to psychoanalysis. By reading a couple of his books, you're able to download the thoughts and ideas of a person who dedicated his whole life to that thing in literally a matter of a couple of days into your brain. And you're able to get his perspective on things, his ideas, his thoughts, and his way of thinking, which is cool. And you're able to not only think your way, but now you also have his way, and that kind of correlates between each other, and it makes this this symbiosis which gives you a new way of thinking. And it's not only with psychoanalysis, it works with all the areas of expertise there are, psychology, or whether it be business, or whether it be politics and history. All of those subjects, they integrate between each other, and it gives you like this web. And by having this web, you're able to understand the world much better, the way things work. Why does certain things work the way they are? Why do we have capitalism? Or why does specific why does democracy work better than any other political system there is right now? So that's, and then also with psychology, if when you start to learn psychology, you begin to not understand people better, but you begin to understand why people behave a certain way, and you no longer kind of attach that behavior to a human. You can separate those two things, a human being and his behavior, because you start to understand that humans' behavior is not primarily it's not human behavior is not always it's not only always directed by his will or by his intent. You start to understand that human behavior can be triggered by certain biases. It can so by certain biases, and by triggering those biases, a person will act in a way that you want him to act. So you are able to manipulate people, which is a highly effective tool to have in life. So and those are just sort of few examples. There are so many books out there, and your task as a person who wants to learn is to find only the greatest authors, only the greatest books, and download their thoughts, because you don't have all the time in the world to read all the books. So that is your task, to filter out and get only the greatest books there are. So that was the third point. Now, the fourth point is, which I think is very important. It consists of two little things. So first of all is decluttering your mind, and second of all is stimulating your mind and your creative process. So if you haven't been reading books and you have been just indulging in watching Netflix or TV, or maybe some unproductive YouTube videos, then your mind is very cluttered with shit. Like, yeah. And in order for you to declutter your mind of that shit, you need to stop watching TV, stop watching Netflix, and instead you need to stimulate your mind with a more difficult task, which is reading, because reading is an active process and watching TV or Netflix is a passive process. So when you get yourself to do an active process like reading, you stimulate your mind to work and you stimulate your creative process. So your mind begins to, get these creative ideas while you're reading, and you don't even know where they're coming from. And it's fascinating to watch your mind, being stimulated and create all these ideas in your head while you're reading. Whenever that happens to me, I get excited because I know that I'm training my mind, and I'm getting smarter, better as a human being. So reading really helps you to think better, to think more clearly, to break down the process, step by step, because that's I don't know why, but that's how it works with books. So those were the 4 main points why reading is important. I highly encourage all of my friends to read. I highly encourage every single one of you watching to read, and I'm sure you will find great benefit out of reading books. Now, before I end this video, I do want to give a small precaution. So I've heard many people talk to me about reading book summaries. Isn't that the same thing? Like, instead of spending a couple of hours reading a book, or a couple of days reading a book, you might as well just read a book summary and download all of the ideas. And I would just want to say here that reading summaries, in my experience, is not the same thing as reading books. Why? And relates back to the 4th point, is because when you read a book, right, it's not as easy as it seems. You have to, sit down. You must have no distractions. You must kind of dive deep into the book, and basically you are transferring yourself into the mind of the person who wrote the book. You are getting yourself into the lane of his thinking process, of how the way his ideas are put together, and that's a very active process. And when you are able to do that, you're able to understand, you're able to have a much bigger understanding of why that book was written, what intent it had, and how those ideas really work. Because it is one thing to say, it is one thing to read in a summary that, say like the book, The Magical Thinking Big, right? And like the book summary of that would be like, conquer fear, think big, right? But when you begin to read the book, and when you begin to see all those small details that the author has put in there, it's a completely different thing. So just my precaution to you, reading book summaries and reading books are 2 different things. I do not read book summaries. I read only books, and I find it fun, and the more you practice it, the better you become at it. So yeah, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button, and also leave me some feedback in the comment section. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel. I'll be releasing these videos. I'm not going to say every day or once a week. I'm just going to be releasing these videos as I feel is important, because this is my channel. This channel is a reflection of me, and I want to bring you value, and I want to keep a record of my thoughts and my ideas for myself for the years to come. So thank you so much, and till next time.